In this example, we will discuss how can you implement buttons within Android. So basically there are three ways, broadly speaking. Of course, there can be a lot of other ways, but we will be discussing these three important ways. So what I've done is there are these three buttons that I've created. It's a linear layout and the orientation is vertical. Then there are three buttons here. And now what we will be doing is we will be implementing these three buttons. The first button, we are going to use the onClick method in this. So the first method is onClick. Just put an onClick attribute within button widget and write the name of the method that you want to be called when you click on this button. For second method, you need to just give an ID here for the button, and for third method also just give an ID here. So basically the first method is primarily dependent on the XML when it comes to the implementation. You need to mention the name of the method that will be getting called when the button is clicked. And for second and third method, we have the other ways which we will be discussing now. So when I click on main activity, as you can see, I have created the three references of those three buttons here. So button 1, 2 and 3. We could have avoided creating a reference for button 1 because it is not really required, because we are implementing that button 1 through the first method, which is just using onClick attribute in XML. So first let's discuss the button 1. Button 1, as you remember, was having onClick attribute is equal to method X. So as soon as I see this, I will go into my main activity and start looking for method X. Here is method X. It's a public method which returns void and view v, and we are just creating a toast message here, toast.makeText. This button clicked from XML method. The length of the toast is long and then we show it. That's it. Now this is a very simple way how you can implement any button, and for that matter you can use this onClick attribute on most of the things within Android. But this is not the only way which you use to implement methods. So if you are a learner who is beginning with Android, I would say that good that you know this way how to implement these buttons, but this is not where the Android ends. There are a lot of other ways, and two of those ways we will be discussing now. The method 2 or the second implementation is btn2 here. I have created a reference here for button 2, btn2. Here, as you can see, within onCreate method, I am defining this button. btn2 is equal to button find view by id r.id.button2. This is the ID of the button which is present here, and this button 2 is here. And now you can see that we have also typecasted it here. We defined button 2 here, and then what we need to do is we need to set a listener onto this. It's set OnClickListener, and you can use this once you have the implementation of view.onClickListener. Now what exactly is view.onClickListener? View.onClickListener is nothing but an interface which belongs to view class. View is a very important class within Android, and OnClickListener is an interface which has a method called onClick. So once you implement this method, if you know a little bit of Java, then you should know that interfaces, when they are implemented, they are basically, then if you implement an interface, then you have to implement its method as well. So the method, like I said earlier, is onClick, and we have done set OnClickListener here. This is the context. You need to tell that this is the button for which you are putting the listener, and after that you need to override onClick. And this is the method which comes from that interface, onClick view v toast.makeText OnClickListener implementation. So once you click on this button, you will get this toast message on the screen. All right, now let's talk about the third method. The third method to run buttons in Android is this one. We have created a reference here, btn3. Then we have defined the button here, and this is very similar to whatever we did till now for method 2, but here the things change. What you need to do here is we set a listener on this, but we don't really need any interface here. Because what we are going to do here is we are going to create an interface here. For that matter, this method is called anonymous class implementation. So what we have done really here is that we are going to use the interface OnClickListener here, and we will be also overriding its method, which is onClick, because that is what interfaces want. If you are using them, if you are creating an instance of them, then you have to call their methods as well. So that is what we did here. but we're not going to, this instance which gets created gets destroyed as soon as the click ends. So basically what is really happening is, the when the user will click on button 3, this interface instance will be there will be an instance which will be made for this interface. This instance will allow us to use its on click method, and once this usage is done, or once the post message gets shown, this instance will be destroyed. Right now, of course, destroyed is a very strong word, but there's nothing wrong with it. In fact, it's good. What we are doing is, we are destroying something which we don't require anymore, and that basically ensures that we have memory being used for right purposes, not just for clicking and such basic stuff, right? So this is the third anonymous class implementation. It's a little trickier, but if keep working on Android, sooner you will realize that this is the best way to implement anything in Android, because it saves you a lot of memory. And the most professionals, the ones who have been working in Android for quite some time now, love this methodology. It's difficult to adjust to, it's difficult to really cope up with it, but my advice to you would be that be friends with it as soon as possible. So now let me show you how does this really work. As you can see, the three buttons are coming here. I'll click on new button 1, button clicked from XML method, new button 2, on click listener implementation, and new button 3, we used anonymous class implementation. So that's how you can use your buttons in Android. So that's it for this tutorial. Please subscribe to this channel, and in case you want code for this tutorial, do let me know in the comments. Thanks a lot.